we're actually going to look at a couple of case studies and share with you the benefits and the learning experiences that we've had out of working on these projects, what went wrong, what we wouldn't do again, and what worked well first time round. Feel free to chip in if you know, if you've tried something that you think would have worked better. Feel free to add your thoughts, that way we'll get the most out of it, of what we're going to cover. I think we'll maybe be about half an hour or so, can do some Q&A. We've got a little bonus session at the end where we can talk about the Capistrano and deployment in the cloud as well, so it tags on to the back of this one, seeing as a bit longer today. So the first project we're looking at, CTC, it's the Cycling Touring Club. They are a charity membership organisation based down in London. They've got about 70,000 members. It was a Drupal 6 project, 177 modules in it, 29 of them were custom, and they had existing CRM integration issues. By the time we arrived to the project, it spent about 90% of the budget and delivered about 50% of the features. So we were essentially looking at how can we turn this around and deliver a success for the client. And there was the CRM software on top of all this. It was running on Windows NT, and they were using SOAP or a SOAPish type protocol to communicate with Drupal. There was performance issues. Chandra, I think you debugged this. You had a lot of calls.
Yes, there was, for example, there was a page of the user screen synchronized address when it was displayed on board, and got like 20 so calls.
Sorry for the picture here. I'm going to get the same height as Chandra. We did this talk on DC Edinburgh a couple of weeks ago, and I saw the picture after, and I was like, oh goodness.
For evidence that
yeah.
right.
Okay. So it was using this CRM package called Iris Care. What was it used for? Basically everything. Drupal was an extension of this legacy CRM system that they were using that was giving them the ability to put everything out onto the web. So all their customer data was held in the back office somewhere, and Drupal was simply the conduit through which information flowed back and forth and was presented to the member.
Yes, basically the Iris Care integration was all good, and sheets you can register for a sheet, you pay for it, you can have a free account on the page, everything is synchronized to Iris Care, and vice versa, so if you modify something, Iris Care was the system. And the first problem in phase 2 is that there are these like CRM software was based in a server bunker with a slow broadband connection, and we have that for 40 calls on page because it would take 30 seconds to go on page. So we had to reduce the calls made to the CRM server to 1 or 2.
And the trick here was, rather than doing the authentication on every request into the CRM server, was actually, when we do page to begin with, do it once, keep the connection alive, and then the other 40 operations or so that you have to do, you don't have to re-authenticate every time. So it went down to like 1 or 2 seconds to render the page, rather than what was sometimes 20 to 40 seconds. So what was wrong with this? They'd been 1 year in development, they hadn't completed all the API calls, a few other bits.
Yes, as described before, for the API, that, for example, when the user is any user page synchronized address, address is not displayed at all, but because it was a user slash page, it was synchronized. And before every API call, check the availability for the API. That was a single function years ago, and just check if the API is available or not, and if not, that is created an error message. So instead of doing this, we can more simple API check to check if the API is available at the beginning of page load and use that condition to work.
So one of the learning lessons, I mean, basically we were refactoring the code that was there, and you might have this from an internal team where essentially the project isn't as efficient. You've got a lot of technical debt within the project. Again, to put your development curve down for going forwards, you can afford it in the budget if it makes sense. When you can reduce that technical debt that you have in the project, you've got something that's much more maintainable. I think by the time we had finished, we were able to release features about 3 to 4 times faster than we were the initial set of features that were coming. It was simply because there was a code base there that was extendable and maintainable, so it made it much easier for us, much happier client as well.
Yes, and there was also a lot of needed calls for different page loads, and it was available for each of them. And so when we do a CRM server, machine and facing the server context of function. There was no error handling to the software requests. For example, the server responded with a 5 error that showed the right application. There was lack of documentation and there was no specification for custom modules, and additionally, that kind of Russian comments everywhere. Shamefully, I need Google Translate for this. My Russian is not as good. Actually, it is nothing, but my original language is Hungarian. Actually, HP, JavaScript, so English is the more speaking. And to make it better, we did the source code, implementation, and we made it readable. I did the code, so every time I look at a file, this totally to understand what it is doing. We also coded the missing parts of implementation on time, and we developed the notion with splits, and we did a lot of the coding in the PR module, which is related to the SOAP API that was here software. And there was a nice guy at CPC who understood what the CRM is talking and who should talk to it. So that was
So, I mean, one of the reasons for the project failure was it was a breakdown in the relationship, and the incumbent provider was no longer talking to this individual that knew how to make the project work. So it was quite easy for us. We were external coming in, we had no baggage, quickly identified, well, this is what the problem is. We reinstated this individual as we cannot do this without this guy, so he had a big elevation in status again internally. He was happy to be being brought to the table, contribute, add value, and essentially, if our project could have been a disaster as well if you hadn't played nice with each other, basically. So it was a big part. I mean, you can have the best developers in the world in your agency, but if you can't talk to people, then you're potentially going to be the receiving end of you being the one that's creating the need for a respite project. So for the hosting of this website, it was something we put in a proposal for. The client themselves, they felt a lot more creature comfort from what we were hosting, and wanting that kind of 24/7 coverage. We were maybe looking at 7 in the morning to 11 at night. How bad is it if it goes out at 2 in the morning for you? Certainly, when they met Acquia, they had a lot more comfort factor there. So for us, the hosting was essentially quite easy. Acquia took it into their cloud offering, and there was actually some benefits to us as an agency at that point, because you had the depth of resource in Acquia. We're at that point making suggestions on, if you do this, you're going to start removing some more of your bottlenecks. And in the first instance, we've been using Boost to get some additional performance out of the Drupal web pages. Acquia were straight away use Varnish, and they had their own internal IT resource as well at this point, so that was a project we did internally. I know CTC worked quite closely, maybe over about 4 to 6 weeks with Acquia to get their varnish working, and they were very happy with the performance. So in the end, what we were doing was we refactored the existing code base that was there and solving stability issues in the platform, and Drupal running as a platform itself. That's the way we inherited it, and communicating over this legacy ISP broadband line into some World War II bunker where a collection of servers were hosting the CRM. So the results that came out of this project is, in the end, we had a fully functioning website, we had quick interaction with the CRM, was much more maintainable, was delivered in budget, and the live version is now being used by all of CTC's members. I believe they're going to be very interested in the talk earlier on today of Drupal 6 to Drupal 8. So we decided we'll just leapfrog Drupal 7, we'll get a few years out of this project, and they'll dive in at Drupal 8.3 or so. And yeah, they're now happy. So the next project we'll look at, 5x50. This is a charity organisation. A couple of guys, or a guy and a gal, he says, why don't we get a bit fitter? Should we do this together? Should we put it on Facebook? It'd be awesome if we had a couple of hundred people doing it. They got 5,000. So take my hat off to the individual that created their first website. There was volunteer isn't quite the word. There was a lot of mornings till, you can only presume, 2, 4 in the morning to deliver something that could handle their 5,000 members. And essentially, he was not able to commit the same amount of volunteer time a third time round, at which point we were looking for something that was much more maintainable, wasn't proprietary, all the good things that an open source solution like Drupal brings to the party. So we went in, and in the first instance, we sold the client on Drupal's the right platform for you. First and foremost, they got into that. And essentially they now have a Drupal 7 website running. There's 65 modules in it, 7 of them custom. It's hosted on Amazon, so they have, potentially it's about 5 days out of 365 odd, the thing just lights up. So we're going to maybe get 20, 30 visitors if they're lucky, about 300 days out of the year. The week prior to this challenge going live, it just ramps up. So we needed something that was cost effective for them and going to be highly scalable. So our proposal for them was we should go with Amazon Web Services. It's very much a plug and play somewhat. You have the ability to go in and build the solution that you need. So Chandra will talk about that in a little bit more detail. So for the development of this, it works responsively, including BlackBerry. Chandra tells me that BlackBerry is the IE6 of the mobile world. BlackBerry, no directors in today, no? It doesn't support IE6 or 7, and on IE8 it might work. We didn't test it. 80% of the traffic through the website was coming through latest versions of Safari, IE, and Chrome, so there simply wasn't a justified cost. We weren't spending loads of money to see does it work on the few hundred people on IE8. We needed to, anyone get the migrate module talk earlier on. I was project manager on this, so I'll hold my hand up. One of the developers was telling me, I can write a wee script for this. I've done this before, just it'll take me a couple of days. It's the quickest way to do it. Aye, great, that would be wonderful for the budget. So a couple of days later, it didn't work, so I sort it out, do it again. Attempt 2 didn't work, attempt 3 didn't work, attempt 4 didn't work. Several days beyond my budget, I was like, stop, Chandra, and did migrate module. He was finished with this other development by that point. Is that an afternoon, a day it took?
Yes, I think it was more than the first 8 important goals. After that, is us.
So the moral of the story was, if we'd done the migrate module, which actually the architect had stipulated, but the developer says, I don't know migrate, this will be so much cheaper. We'll do that again. We would have hit it on budget for that. That was my bad, my expense. We had to absorb it. But the big difference with the migrate module was, I believe Chandra didn't get it right the first time either. It did take a few attempts, but it was the rollback was so much quicker. and that's how we were able to achieve it in module rather than having to write a script for that.
Yes, the best thing is that you can run the Drupal migration form with 10 volts and check if it's working or not. And if everything is looking good, then you can go through. And you can have the management reason for the program tag user or you can connect it to the challenge, and if you create that in the first and include the challenge and look at more instead of making something there.
So we also had some integration on this project with Just Giving. This was the major part of the project outside delivering a Drupal website, and it was simply talking to Just Giving through its API. As regards performance and scalability, I don't remember what the disaster was earlier in the year. It was around February time, a big earthquake somewhere, but we were suddenly like, why is our calls all failing now? And we figured out actually Just Giving had grounded to a halt, and they simply could not cope with the demand of one of these emergency appeals that was being broadcast on television. So it's quite surprising, and we'll have a look at the other big guys that actually they get it quite spectacularly wrong. What's interesting for me with someone like Just Giving is you would think actually this must happen to them every couple of months. Why don't they sort that out?
They had focused on that.
So it was hosted on Amazon.
Oh yes, it was hosted on Amazon with this structure. We had a load balancer, only one because we checked the previous year's challenge and traffic and Google Analytics. We do not expect more than twice the traffic, so we took one group of Studio Zero. There was a few EC2 instances connected to RDS and cache. Cache was used for cache and the sessions. Saved a lot of performance on the site. By default, Drupal is saving the cache into a base table, and using the memory of that will speed up a lot. And in my view, it is better to use it when you have only one single server. That is because using uncached instead of placing cache, because the cache is uncached to server Amazon. Your Drupal will not write to the database, which will save you a lot of disk performance. So that is the reason. And that's all. We have a server which has the site support with all the EC2 instances, sliders, and that. So the whole website all the files and the sites for config PHP is like lying on the NFS server, and NFS server connects to the NFS clients. So we have a lot of NFS clients of that, and we are using cache files for the NFS cache clients. That is required because without that, every time you start to load, you'll use the server disk. At some point after that, you start 10 nodes. You can put that because the disk is limited. Users see cache as non-cached server, stick up the site to load, and we recorded the changes this panel. We don't have time after this. I can talk about that. So we deployed directly to the server and before simulated this as clients. We used HTTP for system page processes and ABC for cache. Also, we got problems with this. So it's about the rules to have load balancer, nodes, and MBS cache. So we can do the custom ones. The possible problems with NFS is happening in the network interface, so it can be slow after a while. and it's also using the disk on the server, so that could be a bottleneck. And if we start 10 nodes in 5 seconds, it will start to synchronize the world file system and sites for files with NFS clients and also on the server. Also, there could be a problem when we deploy a new release at times, because every node will need every file in 1 second, and the NFS server can this once per month as the solution for what is.
So what we had happening is, this is the kind of what happens before the challenge. Kind of after January, it begins to start getting a bit of interest. People are interested in getting fit again. As they start doing their marketing and PR about here, this I believe is Friday. Saturday was the day before the challenge going live. And at this point, it went out in one of the Scottish national newspapers. They had a kind of human interest story was in, so it really began to ramp up at that point. We were expecting something though, and then on the Sunday, that was the challenge day where we were hitting our peak. So we knew we were going to have a peak at some point, so that came along. And yeah, on the first day, we had 2 sites working to deliver the resource for this, and it was okay. We thought it was going to be fine. On the second day, where we did peak, we had 3 times more users adding their activity on Facebook. This at this point was still okay, actually. We had a wee problem in our test results. We were using Siege to test the application and load impact to test the performance of the site. We tested with logged in users, of course you would. The bit that we went whoops apocalypse on was we didn't account for 2,000 users adding a node and what that might do to the server, which is exactly what they all tried to do at about 8 o'clock on Sunday night when they went, woohoo, I've done my 5K for today, I'm going to tell the world, and the site just went, so we were all on WhatsApp at this point. We actually had the kind of product owner from the charity on WhatsApp. We had said to him back in September, something's going to go wrong in this project, and we don't know what it's going to be. If we did, we'd fix it just now. So be prepared, something's going to happen, but we're going to be there to fix it. So they knew well in advance that, okay, if it goes wrong, we'll sort it out. So it did go wrong, but we were on WhatsApp. Look, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, we're taking care of it. On the Sunday night itself, as we kind of went maybe 8 p.m. to 9:30, the server just couldn't cope with it. We went from 2 front-end instances up to we had 7 large Amazon instances. That's exactly why we were using Amazon. It still couldn't happen. We were getting a ton of 504 errors. I think every 1 and 2 page loads seemed to be a 504 error. The server's just not available. So the guys at the charity, they were on Twitter and Facebook saying, guys, really big unexpected peak, bear with us. They're like, oh, fine, don't worry about it, Seas are doing well. And then just as we thought it was safe to go back in the water about 9:30, all the bots went, whoa, new content, lovely, let's download this website, the worst being Beidou, behaving badly, so that in the first instance got blocked out with the HT access file. Google got told to can itself and behaved accordingly, and as did the other ones. So then by about 1:30 in the morning, the bot fiasco had settled down, and at that point we switched the server off for 10 minutes, changed from a standard spindle disk on the NFS server to SDS, switched it back on, and that was the problems resolved for that point. And the second night, when we actually had the same volume of traffic doing the same events, we were back down to 2 servers and the thing was just running along smoothly. So our bottleneck was on creating content, being crawled, and the disk is where the problem was. Went to SSD disks, and we'll remember that for the future. So why Amazon? We can scale up or down whenever we want. It's a cost-effective solution for the client. So it's actually still running up. I think it's still got the back end, the database server, a front end server with a load balancer available. It'll get decommissioned next week. It'll go back onto a single instance, and we might migrate it over to a different server solution that we'll talk about for the next challenge, which is this. So I'm not sure if any of you are aware of this. We only became aware of it a week before the end of the challenge that, oh, there's a new technology in town, this looks wonderful. Let's not be the first to try it. But what they're promising and what it actually seems to do is where you have standard BPS, one of the benefits of BPS is, okay, you can scale it. Bare metal, you get more for your money, you get more performance out of it. What's it actually called? Linux containers on the chip, where you're actually sharing the BIOS of the chip, is it? You share the chip? The kernel. So you're sharing the kernel amongst multiple instances. You all have to have the same operating system, is it? Okay, so you can have your different operating systems, but with the kernel sharing, the beauty of it is you don't have to switch it off and on again. If you're having your busiest day of the year and you need to go from a 16 gig server up to a 64 gig server, you don't really want to turn it off and on again. And this technology, what we've been told is that you don't have to do this. And they're using micro-billing. They're basically paying in arrears for what you use. The company that we know that's doing it is called Elastic Hosts. They call it Elastic Containers. It's basically a good bit of smoke and mirrors and some technical solutions to deliver a great marketing proposition to people that think cloud is the answer to everything. This actually looks to be one step closer. And essentially, you know, if you've got a 64 gig server, well, of course, not everybody can have all the resources at once. So the way they're using a bit of business logic to manage it is you can scale to 4 times whatever your subscription is. So if you have 4 gig in your subscription, you can scale seamlessly up to 16 gig. If you go into your control panel, you can change 4 to 16, which will allow you to go up to 64 again without any rescaling. So as where we required a couple of days to actually change the infrastructure in Amazon, there's a saving in hardware, but you've got a cost in labor. This would seem to eliminate that cost somewhat for the client. When we first heard about it, we had a call with them, and I think they actually solved the problem a week later. I know it's solved now, that's for sure, but it was still a little bit buggy then, in that if you installed the Linux desktop client, it actually started crashing everybody's VPS. So still might be a few noisy neighbor type issues around the technology. Certainly it will mature over the year, and I'd expect a lot more hosting providers to be offering VPS plus type solutions to agencies. Sorry, the other one is for server hosting. Use whoever you think is great. I've been with a number of hosting solutions in the UK. Essentially, we want them to support the hardware. We'll do the managed hosting bit of it, that we get the right version of PHP that doesn't cause a half-penny rounding issue in a VAT calculation or something, not that they say, oh, we'll reinstall it and it's the wrong stack. So I think the important thing to consider with a hosting company is that you have a good relationship with them, not that it takes 45 minutes on some one chat to, yeah, you turn it off and on again.
More interesting thing, optimizing the ACC for out and cache. So ADC basically caching all the page files you are loading user browsing your site. So first turn it on if you want to optimize it, and walk through the user journey that is required, because you have to load the file and store it in the cache. Measure with ADC or PHP, simply whether the development process and check what is happening. Actually, it's using the page load on Siege and adjust the page label file and read it is that is performance. And of course, that's 50% reserved because it is still using data. That is because of fragmentation. Because times we set yours for the cache. So the old has get the new ones and get fragmentation because the size of the has to be done. So on the next the slide, you see that happening. We allocated 2 gig of memory with this cache, and it is using only 241 and only 1 gig is available because of ICP and skip down to 1. By default, you have this ABC element plus 1, so just turn on. I remember using some like this or come by default. So simply turn on ABC will save a bit of patterns for you, but it will not be very good because instead of megabyte with lookup, but it's using much more small page files from the core Drupal. If you install it with the modules, then it will be enough. The experience is that you have a fixed server with live conversion, just use as much as you can. So the second one is message and segments. So in the optimization, it was should be added to the memory, and because the Linux kernel is everything is shared memory for each process. ABC is trying to solve this problem by creating segments. And for example, if it is already only 100 megabyte, you want to use 200, then you have to create segments. And it is much faster if you do this, set the kernel second on maximum memory to, for example, you want 2 gig of 100, then set that. So this is better if you the kernel side instead of the user space. The next thing is that you measure that can fit in 1 gig wall side for APC, including the wall user journal user pages, every single location that is loaded. Simply set the shared memory size to do that and allow like 2% result. As by default was 1 that should be wrong. And the most extremely powerful feature is the start for 0. That means APC will not check every file if you want to load it. It will just simply want to load the cache. That was originally there because of the development of your site. For example, when you change a file, APC will check the date, the modification date on the file, and if it's different than the record on the original cache, then it will original cache. Then this hope will save a lot of history and a lot of stuff happening in the back. And this is a complete example of progress which devices show the progress bar. PDL, we always set it to something like lost 5. And it's saved Windows will deployment, and it's not deployed over the storage story. And the maximum size 3 megabytes. I never I developed that imaging translation. I will go on badly and we go handle larger files. Next thing is working by the HPM, and HPM is a process manager for PHP. If you're not using it, PHP is loaded on a request, which is slow. So the way we are doing it is measuring what many course we have. For example, if we have 6, then we can run 6 function workers. This is still not HPM, but it's accurate because we need to know how long the request will take and how many this start. So, for example, if we have 6 cores, we can start 6 servers. We can limit that with child and it's small. And pattern is important because there is memory leak that which is good for an Apache module. Then we need number of requests. 10,000 or everything between 5 to 10,000 is too less. And the next configuration file is PHP configuration itself. It is gotten from the PHP time, number of CPUs and Apache processes were running. We started with the site that covers all the site and start to see according to we measure the memory is using, and so I just start to use more memory. And of course, if you have more traffic, then the configuration can be changed. There are cases when server part cannot cope with the traffic. In this case, for example, you get 5 errors. You cannot avoid that because that can happen for different reasons. For example, the client was mentioned things paper and we started to go inside, process. You can have a failure, for example. So for us, it's value or simple and simple ratios.
So and as well, I mean, with this one, Glasgow Commonwealth Games tickets this month actually, the Ticketmaster had quite a big boo-boo. I find it quite reassuring every once in a while when I see the big boys get it wrong. And maybe one day we'll have one of the Rex employees and hear just about how horrendous it was. Maybe some of you that work with some really big national companies, you try and integrate with their systems, and yeah, this is like 20 years out of date what those guys are using. So yeah, I find it quite reassuring. The one that we saw that I thought was very appropriate was for the Olympics last year, and we were trying to get tickets for that. It had a countdown clock. So it's like it knew there was going to be some ridiculous amount of traffic coming, so you think, okay, let's get 30 servers, because we're a big nationwide website. We're going to budget for 30 servers, and let's handle 80–90% of the traffic really effectively well. As soon as we start getting near a signal point, a danger point, let's maybe use one of those servers to simply display a countdown clock. Guys, it's really busy, try back in half an hour. Hopefully you don't leave that on all day, and you still have a plan B to add additional servers in. But certainly for this website, in the first instance, is to discuss with the client, do we go to this kind of elastic hosting, which, you know, it should 64 gig of RAM and have 48 cores, whatever it is, that should be more than enough. Maybe instead of the 5,000, they get 20 or 50 or 100 or something beyond their wildest dreams. But again, it's always good to have a contingency plan as well as your plan B there.
So the big issues are also scaling. For example, failure for Twitter. So years ago, actually, these days are so fast times. This is the configuration of Facebook, so they as well. And this is probably the one. And I can still see images from like the production. I cannot see the page.
So if you're going to fail gracefully, and a bit of planning in for it.
The first one is for Apache, the second one is for Tomcat. Nobody cares who is looking at the pointer exception here. It's an example for a developer, for a Java developer, not for the user, so don't play this for the user. We have a few ideas that is as well handling pages. For example, if you're using a load balancer, it's very easy to set up functionality to limit the number of users. Like it is, if you have 5,000 users, get the first 2000 user ID or the last 2000 number for the 12 months, and then let them log in. Other users can be redirected to a static page showing their timer, discover 5 minutes later, or if it's page. And
within that as well, we were thinking use a queuing system. So if you've got 2,000 visitors in your site, obviously the people that are coming into the new, they're going into the queue, and it's the ones that have been in longest that are getting first out or allowed into the system. So you're kind of ordering what's going on.
The other idea is that zero time stamp with the cookie can be done with a load balancer as well, and let the users in if they will
And the reason for 5 minutes, what you can do there, go into your Google Analytics, what's the average user session, and you maybe want to try and automate it. If people are in for, say, 5 minutes, probably a few are out within a minute, some are in for 9, you might just want to say let them stay in the queue for 7 minutes and start letting them through that way. So we've actually still got 15 minutes. This was a 40-minute presentation for up at DC Scotland a couple of weeks ago, so Chandra's got an additional bit for Capistrano deployments in the cloud.
Right.
Anyone use Capistrano?
Okay.
So describe what it is first.
Yes. So 10, 20 years ago, our users did this IS7, and I think most of us started with this correctly. Capistrano is another solution if you have SSH access on the remote server, and the remote server has Git installed, then you can deploy Capistrano without problem. Basically, it's just a common solution, standardized solution for deployments. I saw a lot of other developers are logging into server with SSH and log into on there, or you can have Git hook. After you push something to the master branch, you simply copy the content, the latest version to the server. So it's a deployment framework for Ruby application. It's a Ruby gem. Gem is like a software package you it is written in Ruby, but it can be easily used to deploy a new language. And we have task collections permits for Symfony, Major Fusion, Polynight, but most popular frameworks in workflow is something like this. You have a developer PC here, you have production server here. A production server should be able to access the Git repository, and your developer lawyer PC simply commanding the production server to Git upload, pull the Git repository, and simply use it as a new piece. You can automate this process to integrate by integrating it to a CI software using Festival development, and if you choose current singing to point it the data series, for example, data series support, then we use singing to be created, and new current singing to point and it can be also done without any downtimes. For example, you command server to to the repository, and it can automatically call the update to PHP. The purpose for this is for deployments, and it's very good because it's a recurring process. If you log in as a developer to SSH on the server, you can can make mistakes. This is I think to avoid that. It is also saving a lot of time. That is because when you have these, for instance, you don't want for the actual change. And earlier, with the deployment, it's not to make the process. The dimension is very successful. And you can also execute a lot of other tasks on server. For example, you have a cache, we start cache, can place on maintenance like so the site. Its directory structure is, this is the latest version. Sorry, see, also the cache for the level, that is on the runs. The current simply is pointing the latest release here, that you have the source code, and you have a shared directory structure for the private files using PHP. This is called that's configuration file and media files stored on your server, and you have to copy compatible source code. It's also writing to the revision scope. So, for example, you as check your deployment, then it will be visible to the scope and this time. Just no,
Yeah. Any questions about the performance, scalability, deployments? Anything to add? Your own experience?
You had the idea of using blocks that were switched off completely. Don't know what it was, but do you use that sort of technique on sites? Yeah. Like Citrix does. Stress.
What's the answer to that?
We don't switch off blocks. The users login, so we, for example, when we do the login, you can do it on.
I was just thinking of a degraded performance rather than just not playing login.
Yeah.
Sort of an intermediate. Yeah. The other thing is that those that don't know Strade is a little bit like Gateway for Chef. A little bit like, in particular Chef. But my experience to date it's faster.
Do you try to use some S3 bucket or CDN for files? There?
Yes, we have for 550 because most of the was
But S3 can only some file storage for files, like S3 bucket.
So if you used it in the past in other projects, but not in these ones here, I'd say, yeah, it depends what's the most appropriate solution.
Just going back to that EC2 setup that you used, see, the NFS share caused you loads of issues.
Yeah.
So why didn't you use Capstone to deploy to all the web services individually, rather than having to share files?
Yes, that is because we have files and that are on the site. So you can be scrambled because for example, the user wants to upload the user picture, then it's going to be on the other site.
So that's why you use S3 to
Yes.
just report security image.
Just comes about, is it particularly complicated thing, or is it relatively easy to get your head around?
A lot easier than Git from what I see and what I hear.
Yes, no, it is just we have a Git repository for the configuration. Just we copy the project folder, and it is very important. It is written in Ruby, so if you have like you check it, you copy the package.
My observation is if the developer can use Git, we're not going to have a problem with Strand.
I've got some experience of using Elasticbase. They're a good well, a couple of comments. They probably don't have lots of text on hand. So if you know what you're doing, you know what you want,
Yeah.
it's probably a good solution. But if you're not quite sure you have the in-house experience to support those servers, then probably not a good view.
Yeah, and again, it's what's the right balance there. The experience I had, and again, I think it was some kind of noisy neighbor problem, and it was somebody else within the cloud atmosphere was causing us problems, and it was the technical director or whatever. I was spitting chips on emails and phone messages and whatnot, so I could not speak to someone. And in the end, the guy came on Skype and we chatted it through. It wasn't a problem. We had a Skype call at that point. It was like, the kind of buck stops with me. But yeah, I totally take your point. Is are you going to be happier with a fast UK Fast or Rackspace or who's the right partner really? So definitely.
I don't think you can resize resources without restarting the server either.
So that's what their VPSs to date have been. It sent out a newsletter back in April, I think it was. And that's these elastic containers. So we were on the phone a couple of days ago. They had this issue with install a bunch of desktop and it crashes the chip for everybody. But certainly when I spoke to them last week or two ago, they were saying, yeah, there had been a problem, but that was resolved quite quickly. So it seems they're working the kinks out with it. It looks like a great solution to try.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Did you also try to AirSync some scripts to
Yes, we are planning to do that. Yes.
first in solutions?
So I think where IXC, that's again we have the CDL as I just as was on SLF, so we can do that.
I just wanted to know that the deployment server and setup, how that was arranged, was that something you did for that particular setup? That's something.
As in the process
Is
of
an
going through
external
that?
project, that's what I'm asking.
Do you mean the architecture of the solution or just the process of doing it?
The stuff that was making it happen, the program that running there.
Doing the original configuration.
The thing that causes Capistrano to run.
Somebody presses a button, I believe.
Just have a couple of that's all.
So it's not dynamic.
No, but the great thing about that, so I mean, the deployments are going to be scheduled anyway. We need a bug fix or a new feature release. But the great thing with Capistrano is somebody screws it up horrendously, and the first thing they teach a graduate is how to recover a server and how to roll back something you don't know how to fix because it's on holiday. Yeah, so it's great. You can roll back very easily. So if you release something that's going to take longer than fix, roll it back quite quickly. We're about to get jostled in time with a 2-bar setup, maybe.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks very much, guys.